Alright, maintenance instructions. 434 accelerator generator model A1, model A8102 and part number 8140947. Application F3, F7, FP7, GP7, SD7 with steam generator in the MRS1. General description of the model A80102 shunt wound auxiliary generator. Figure 1 is rated at 18 kilowatts, 80 volts, DC 80, 800, 2400 RPMs with the ventilated with the air drawn into the machine by a fan mounted mounted on the armature. The armature rotation counterclockwise when the view of the communicator end. Auxiliary generator driven the engine through the flexible shaft extension with the number of the two idler gear with the camshaft drive gear train. Provides direct current with the charging batteries, control circuit with lighting, steam generator, battery field with alternator, rotor field excitation, voltage is automatically controlled by a voltage regulator blower impeller mounted directly on the fan end of the extension. Provide for the cooling air for the main generator alternator. Maintenance inspection apparatus should be inspected often enough to prevent failures, and should include the examination component parts of which will appear under the respective headings in this bulletin. Cleaning is essential for the auxiliary generator to be kept clean at all times. It should be blown out with a clean, dry, compressed air outlined in the maintenance. Instruction 1704, figure 1 shows auxiliary generator A8102. Approximately every year, insulation for the computer cap should be cleaned when the dry paint, air drying, insulation varnish, brush holder, ring insulator should be wiped clean. Any accumulations of oil, dirt should be removed. The electrical equipment must not be sprayed with the clean with a liquid of any kind. Attempting with the cleaning with the coil windings and liquid cleaner will destroy the protective coating, causing it to peel. The crack is necessary to blow out the dust and dirt with clean air periodically. This should be done often enough to prevent all the any accumulations. If the deposit of the dirt are allowed to collect, then sometimes it can be caked and making it more difficult to remove the large volume air. Responsible low pressure should be used. High pressure from a nozzle is used if there is danger for the loosening tape and cutting the protective coating of the various parts. Some of the parts, such as the brush hole for the contact, should be wiped clean with a clean, dry cloth. In cases where there are heavy deposits of the grease and dirt that cannot be removed with the air dry cloth, the tip of the brush, softwood fiber scrapers may be required. Severe cases, it may be necessary for the dampen the cloth with an in cleaner. Remove oxide grease from the oil. However, every precaution should be taken to keep the cleaner off the communicator. Unsatisfactory brush performance may result if the cleaner is used on communicator surfaces. The cleaner should be used only where the methods will not remove the foreign material. Creepage surfaces. Before the instruction, creepage surface care and maintenance traction motor generator communicators in maintenance instruction 1, 11, 19, 432, and 433. Lubrication. The ball bearings are double shielded type and they're packed with the factory with the lubricant ANDOCKY, which does not become fluid except for the temperatures higher than those reached within normal operation. Some of the bearings are sealed on both sides, but they do not require additional lubrication. However, overall, the bearings should be removed and replaced with the new factory pack bearings, cars, and maintenance brush and brush holders. Periodic inspection of the brush holder should be made with the following points should be observed. The brushes should be moved freely with the brush holders not stuck through the dirt or their forms up to the lift of the spring with the raised lower of the brush into the carbon ways. So, as the release of the dirt may have the accumulated care should be taken not to snap the spring, as this may chip the brush. Blades of the brushes have been chipped and worn excessively with the same grade of the brush of the recommended replacement, especially necessarily, or only partial replacement is made with the two different kinds of brushes. Alright, it shows the sandpaper and the brush and the commutator. The pull of the sandpaper with the rough side to the brush is in the same direction with the armature of the rotor rotates, and this figure 2 shows the fitting of the brushes to the communicator. On the same generator, likely the differential for the successful operational when the new brush installed should be sanded in one at a time. Figure 2 plate with a piece of the double O grade sandpaper under the brush and sanding contact brush and move the sandpaper the direction rotation lift of the brush and move the paper from the back. Keep the paper close to the communicator. Avoid rounding the edges of the brush. No, do not use the emery cloth or the emery paper for the sanding in the brush. Proper brushes and pressure should be maintained. Specified with the maintenance leak data In the end of the instruction, the unequal brush pressure may cause the unequal current distribution brush of the refer to figure 3 for method of the measurement brush pressure. Maintain 1/8 of an inch clearance between the bottom of each of the brush holes of the communicator brush hole with the assembly arranged in such a way that the brush holes over the move may be moved toward the communicator, loosening the check nut and set screw on the bush arm of the brush holder should be rigidly bolted in place. The carbon shunt shall be arranged that they will clear parts of the frame and the ground potential. Communicator. The communicator should present polished surface entirely free of the pitting of the event. If the communicator becomes pitted, it should be cleaned with a fine communicator stone. No, do not use carbonium or emery cloth, emery paper on the communicator. When cleaning the communicator stone with a stone, extra caution must be taken to keep the copper dust from the windings. There are openings for the end of the frame and the fan end should be covered to prevent the fan with the drawing the dust with the windings. After cleaning with the communicator, blow out with the windings carefully with a clean drive with the compressed air to reduce the pressure. If the communicator has high or low spot with the signing of the burning in the armature, that should be placed in the lathe and the communicator turned just enough to give the uniform surface. Do not apply lubricant with the communicator because of the detrimental successful operation. When the communicator is not clean and free with the grease and oil, carbon dust will collect with the grooves in between the segments and may cause the short circuit. Shows the scale of the brush arm leather loop and then approximately 1/8 of an inch between the brush and the commutator measuring brush pressure. Auxillary generator overhaul. Auxiliary generator overhaul consists of a careful inspection of the stator field of the assembly amateur of the assembly brush holder, assembly bearing assembly, especially with respect to the defects of the necessary repair of the application of the required test check, the cleaning of the varnishing treatment, so that they will have component assembly of the generator or resembles the generator will operate successfully to the next overhaul period. The auxiliary generator should be overhauled for the period specified by the maintenance instructions 1704. Should be serviced as follows: remove the armature, remove the discard, scrap, ball, bearing, cleat, repaint, field, coils, and leads, clean, dip it, and bake armature of the term, the undercut of the communicator if necessary, replace with the string band if necessary, 7, assemble the new double shield field factory packed bearings. Make certain that the bearing retainer nut is locked with the washer provided for that purpose. The following precautions should be observed to prevent bearing failures. When removing the couple flange blower fan wheel assembly, use a puller that does not apply with a load on the bearings. Couple flange and blower fan must be pressed on the shaft in such a way that its force is not transmitted through the bearings. 3, care must be exercised in handling the auxiliary generator to prevent bumping of the shaft, which is likely to damage the bearings. And 4, bearings which have been removed from the shaft at any time should not be used again, but it should be replaced with the new factory pack bearings. Disassemble the auxiliary generator. Remove the armature from the stator. Remove the couple flange of the blower with the fan wheel with the shaft with the studs of the puller plate. Remove the keys from the shaft. 2, remove the buck. Move the end frame of the communicator end. Mark on the end frame the stator slowly with a prick punch. This is done so that the brushes will not be shifted away with electrical neutral with the reassembling communicator frame. 3, remove the brush of the communicator covered with the communicator with a protective paper covering. 4, disconnect with the connection from the brush hole with the inner pole field coils for the remove of the clamps which hold the stator leads with the housing. 5, remove the bearing cap mounting bolt from the communicator and fan end of the frame. 6, remove the end frame mounting bolts from both end frames. 7, place with the protective covering over the shaft. Apply a piece of pipe over the shaft extension, support with the free end of the pipe with the blocks, and loosen with the communicator end of frame with the tapping on the frame with the use of the brass and copper bar. When communicator end frame is moved away from the stator, place the stiff pieces of the paper between the armature and pole piece at the bottom of the armature. Remove the communicator end free. Next, remove the fan end frame, tapping the end of the frame. The end frame can then be slid over the bearing assembly. The stiff paper on the armature will keep the armature from dropping. 8, to remove the generator armature entirely, heavy rope should be placed around the ends of the armature shaft. The complete armature lifted enough to clear the pole piece with the easy armature out of the frame toward the fan end. Care must be taken and exercised not to injure the laminations windings during the process. Extension pipe may be required over the shaft of the communicator end so that the armature may be projected far enough out of the frame to be handled. Note: do not lift the weight of the armature with the rope around the communicator. Remove the armature bearing. Remove the bearing retainer lock of both ends of the bearing assembly. 2, remove the bearing assembly with the shaft taping the bearing housing lightly evenly with a rawhide mallet soft metal hammer. The remaining bearing parts on the shaft are as follows: with the ball bearing assembly, space between the bearing and shaft with the seat of the bearing housing. Note: a new bearing is to be installed and the old bearing is discarded. Armature: the following cleaning procedures are: note: the friction Traction motor generator armature cleaning of the maintenance instruction 1121, section 5, 432 or 433. Armature should be closely inspected with the condition of the bands and coils. Insulator, communicator, and general assembly. Armature band should be tight when the secure with the soldering on the band should be intact. If the soldering has been thrown off, cause should be The cause should be determined and corrected with the bands replaced. With the coil insulation should be free of the blister flakes and cracked insulation varnish surfaces. Electrical test. Before applying the high potential test of the armature, make the insulation condition with the test of the mega ohm meter for the armature for the free of the insulation deterioration, moisture crowns. Creeping surface is clean with a high mega ohm reading may be expected with usually 100 mega ohms to infinity. Low mega ohm readings are found when the armature should be baked for 4 hours at 100 degrees Celsius with the conventional type oven. The recheck for the mega ohm readings after the cooling armature through the temperature last step for the comparison value. If below 1 mega ohm, strip the rewind. When the armature passes the mega ohm meter test applied with a high potential test at 600 volts AC 60 cycles, armature shall fail on high potential test, should be stripped and rewound unless the fault can be located and permanent repair made. When the armature pad for the high potential test is applied with the bar-to-bar resistance, a comparison test with the low resistant ohm meter test set readings above the normal may indicate poor soldering joints. Readings below normal will indicate a short which must be eliminated or the armature stripped and rewound. Armature wire bands. Armature band wire diameter is approximately 40 thousandth of an inch and has a tension of 150 pounds. Duplicate the band originally on the armature. Does not change the width, the diameter, position, material of the band. Duplicate insulation under the band wire with the bring of the wire to back and band to proper level. Figure 4. Caution failure to hear with above the instructions may call for the heavy circulation current with the band wire sufficient with the overheat with the melt the side of the shower band wire clip with the irritants holder flexible band before soldering. Refer to band and traction motor generator armature bandings. Commutator machine. When the commutators are off the band burn, an eccentric armature should be placed in the lay of the communicator. Turn with the burning bolt before turning with the communicator. Suitable head covering should be placed over the ends of the windings to prevent chips working into the armature, while the turning peripheral speed to the communicator surface should be about 300 feet per minute. Use the carboil tip tool, which may cutting of the communicator surface round off ends of the communicator segments at least 1/32 radius with a mill file. After the communicator has been turned with the mica, insulation between the segment bars should be regrooved to a depth of 3/64 of an inch with the width over the mica insulation between the communicator segments of 30,000 of an inch and the width of the mica under the cutting saw to be 25,000 of an inch. The sharp edge for the communicator bars shall be removed with, and it shows you the armature assembly wire diagram. 26 turns, 13 turns, 36 turns, 1/32 of an inch, 2 and 3/35/64, 2 and 3/67, 2 to 3/60/27, 3 to an inch, 6/8 of an inch, 1/2 inch, and then shows the armature assembly. A hand scrape of the triangular field with the insinger root with the deceiver with the no chopper chip with the remaining fine polishing should be done with a fine grade communicator stone with a cross cloth. Check communicator for eccentricity. Maximum eccentricity is 10,000 an inch. Dial indicator reading 1,000 an inch. Communicator wire. We are limited diameter in the new communicator is 7.750 or to 7.754 inches. A minimum serviceable communicator diameter 7.125 inches. Tightening communicator after varnish treatment in the last packing while armature is hot and check. Communicator nuts and tightness applied with 360 inch-pounds torque for the communicator nut for the test for the tightness. Varnish treatment of the armature. Dip and bake vacuum impregnated armature for the node with a vacuum impregnate traction motor main generator armature. See maintenance instruction 1121 section 5 433. Dynamic balancing armature. It is recommended for the armature be dynamically balanced after any of the following operation: armature rewound, coils repaired, armature reband. Shows undercut. The mica must be a uniform around communicator 132 to 3/64 of an inch depth of the 25,000 inch wide maximum. And then it shows the balance weights. Communicator may be slowly polished by eccentric gills of 5 to 10,000 inch indicator reading to 1,000 inch balance weight. That's your armature fan assembly. Alright, armature vacuum impregnated or dipped in baked the repair of the communicator other than tightening and turning. Note, it is advisable that no repair is made with the communicators of this generator except for the tightening with the turning with the conditions such for the communicator need with the repair, return of the generator, locomotive manufacturer, auxiliary generator armature may be dynamic balance with 1/2 inch ounces. Balance communicator end of the armature unbalanced with the communicator end of the balance with applying with the weights for the communicator spiral with the screwing with the weights for the spiral cap with the screw figure 5 with the maximum stacking over the weights for the communicator end that may be applied with the same position communicator spiral with 3/8 of inch weights of 5 weights 5 3 6 7 1 3 8 5 2 8 7 0 2 8 5 3 8 7 2 0 9. RB GUI is required for balancing, and it shows the view of the communicator end, and it shows this is the connection diagram. Alright, if stack up with the weights of between 1/4 inch minimum and 3/8 of an inch maximum special cap screw with the 5, 3, 7, and 3, 5, 28. Stack up with the weights between the 3/32 of an inch minimum and 7/32 inch maximum. Use special cap screws 5s, 37, 35, 27. Balance fan end armature of the armature unbalanced with the fan of the end is balanced. Applying with the weights of the fan. Point to unbalanced away with the original balance position. Drill it 255 thousandths of an inch to the 263 thousandths of an inch diameter hole with apply the fan end balance weight with a 5393723. As shown in figure 5, drill as many holes and apply the same amount of the weights as required with the balancing. The fan is one piece for the construction bolt of the armature spot. Remove the bolts. The fan can be slipped off the shaft if the balance has not been distributed. Care should be taken to reassemble the fan in the same position. Stator assembly cleaning. The cleaning is proceeded with the node of the traction motor and the main generator stator cleaning. The maintenance instruction 1121 section 2 432 or 433 electrical test. Apply insulation condition test with the mega ohmmeter if the low readings are found with the dry out the stator before applying with a high potential test. After the mega ohmmeter takes a mega 800 volts AC 60 cycle with a high potential test on field coil stator frame. Make a resistance check of the field coil with the interpole circuits for the type of the maintenance tab of the polarity test if necessary that can be made with the aid of the magnetized dip needle and by applying direct current to the field current circuits in figure 6 and 7. Field coil. The connection and lead of the coil should be examined to determine if they are mechanically electrical satisfactory. With the field coil's lead of the cable connections must be secured with all tapping made with the intact check shunt. Interpole field with the tightness and for tightness. Examine the field of the coil insulation for the cracks. Insulation field coils are tight in insulation good condition. Place stator assembly with the convention type oven to prevent 4 hours of the 115 degrees Celsius or 239 degrees Fahrenheit. Remove stator assembly for oven and apply insulation varnish field coils after the varnish treatment and bake stator assembly in a convention type oven. Remove the oven and end with the coal with the room temperature. Cool the room temperature. Apply one coat of black air dry varnish and around inside of the stator assembly. When necessary, remove the field with the coils provided shown be kept. Alright, show the bends of the tangs of the overclip of the solder, the 10.646 approximate inches, and 10.0.78 approximate inches soldered, all bolted and connections wrapped with 1 inch by 0.15 thousandth of an asbestos tape. That's your stator assembly. Alright, this shows your communicator end brush, show the washer side brush, and then the brush holder spring assembly, terminal cap, mica washers, and expansion plug insulation cement. Alright, so it's your saturated felt at the oil both ends, filled with grease up to the shaft level to the side bearings both ends, filled groove grease both ends, and then that's for max basic brush holder from communicator 1/2 inches. Alright, each pole of the coil shimmed together upon with the reassembly of the part should be placed before the original position. New field coils which are to be installed should be first kept with 1 hour in 80 to 100 degrees Celsius oven. While hot, they should be assembled on the poles drawn up tightly with the generator frame. Cleanly contact surface the bolt together tightly. Bolt connections and solder connections is known in figure 7. The communicator end frame brush holder assembly. Inspect felt seal of the wear damage in felt, seal of the defect of the tap out of the self drainer, expansion ring and seal of the retaining washer to get with the felt washer with the replace the parts, remove with the new parts, saturate felts of the oil with the both ends, use with no grease felts. Inspect brush holder assembly for the damaged carbon boxes and spring with figure 8 show the proper brush holder setting. Brush holders are removed from the brush holder mounting stud. Apply high potential test end of the frame of the brush holder assembly using 800 volts AC 60 volt cycles. Paint inside of the end frame with the air drying insulation varnish, armature bearing, and final generator assembly. 1. Clean out grease cavities of bearing housing, end frame, and surrounding bearings. 2. Check the seal retainer, felt washer, expansion washer, bearing housing, felt washer, defective, tap out with the old felt seal with the assembly presser, tap then the new felt seal assembly, saturate felt seal and both housing and the oil. 3. Fill the labyrinth groove of the bearing housing in andox B grease and apply small amount of the grease bearing with a house cavity with the breaking, prevent parts from the resolving. Figure 9 with the keep of the grease and off of the felt seal. Place proper bearing housing in the shaft on one end of the communicator end with the other on the fan hand. Plate with the space for washer on each end of the shaft. With the figure 5 with the position move solidly against the shoulder on the shaft. Stick with the old bearing assembly previously removed. The scrap should be removed. Replay with the new factory pack bearings. Place the bearings on the shaft with the A with the lock nut. New lock washer. Move the bearing solidly again for the space washer. Figure 5. Make for the shear lock nut and tight again for the bearing and lock nut. Place of the lock washer on both bearing assemblies. Figure 10. Show the dimension of the new bearing. 7. Apply the new gas communicator end of the fan end of the bearing housing. Of 8. Apply 3 ounces of the andox B grease. Each of the end frame cavity as noted in figure 9. Assembly fan end of the frame over the end bearing housing. Bolt end frame to bearing housing. 10. Apply 2 3/8 of an inch by 16 by 6 inch, 2 3/8 of an inch, 16 by 6 inch long studs, communicator, bearing housing from the pilot bearing housing into the end frame. 10. Bolt the communicator frame and brush holder rigging assembly to the stator and shove the shield ball bearing. The assembly line, pick up the prick of the punch mark at the end of the frame, stator frame, which wear may be able to disassemble the generator insert cable, leave the cleat. Both cleat labels to the brush holders removed during assembly. Lever the raise the assembly stator assembly, the vertical position rest assembly of the communicator end frame. Block under end frame with a clear pilot stud. Level the stator assembly, the insulation of the armature. 12. Apply the eye bolt fan end of the shaft with the inside of the armature assembly with the chair of the assembly with a guide with the communicator housing pilot studs into the end frame. 13. Bolt fan end frame the stator assembly, return generator to horizontal position. 14. Remove pilot stud from communicator end housing. Apply bearing housing to end frame cap screws. 15. Apply brush to brush hold with the seat brush to the communicator. 16. Figure 11 show the auxiliary generator outline in model A8102. Installation test after overhaul. All high potential tests must be made with the place electrode circuit with the under test before with the closing of the switch. If the dangerous over voltage surge may result with the touching of the circuit under the test. Electrodes are already energized. See maintenance instruction 2100. Generator low voltage machine installation test. Brush purposes fall in the same class of locomotive low voltage test. Apply 600 volts to the ground for 1 minute after overhaul. Auxiliary generator. When coupling two rotating shafts together, it is important to provide proper alignment between the shaft, eliminating vibration bending of the shaft with the proper alignment that requires there be no radial displacement between the coupled ends of the shaft between the line and line or have no angular displacement. To align an auxiliary generator coupling flange for the engine power, take off the off coupling flange, proceed as follows. Cover the opening of the top of the main generator cover assembly. This will prevent objects from falling on the communicator. 2. Bolt the generator support plates where removed for the previous generator. 3. Apply the key bolts to the end of the generator shaft. Be sure that keys are not loose on the shaft of the communicator end of the generator. Should apply with a coupling flange push fit. Lock range and plate with the plate washer with the lock washer and bolt. See figure 12. Bolt coupling drive the assembly for the generator coupling flange with the A with the crane with the block on the tackle. Raise auxiliary generator slightly above the support blocks. On the top of the main generator, the bolted coupling drive assembly to the engine. Take off the coupling flange. 5. Apply shims which were removed with the previous generator between the support planes and the support blocks. Lower over the generator support plates over the shim of the bolt generated those support blocks by means of the 2 indicator of the mount with the offset row of the bolted with the engine power. Take off the coupling flange measurement of the coupling misalignment to determine both of the indicators revolving or with the engine coupling flange. Plate with the plunger 1 indicator on the outside diameter of the generator coupling flange on the other indicator of the outside face of the same coupling flange. And it shows your auxiliary generator outline. And it shows your auxiliary generator, auxiliary generator to the engine, so for the auxiliary generator coupling face of the engine couple, Link flange faces are paired with the respective coupling drive flange faces, so within 10,000 inch total indicator reading at each end. Main generator, main generator cover, main generator, and CLL generator frame. Alright, your bar jack engine over and take with a reading at 90 degrees apart with neither indication read for those 10,000 total indicator reading alignment may be considered the satisfactory installment of the support with the support block pedal pins. 8. Remove the cover over the top of the main generator opening with the inspect with the felt gap. The new gas extractor that should be cemented with the number 2 permanent tags for the top flange for the cover before mounting power housing. Note, from this point with care must be taken to prevent any objects from falling on to the communicator. 9. Mounting blower housing with the felt gaskets bolt to the main generator cover. 10. Apply the thin coating of the grease mixed with a little graphite to the hub bore blower wheel assembly, generator shaft, mount blower wheel assembly shaft, and push in place. Care should be taken and stuff with the blower wheel assembly straight with the bolt lock wheel blower wheel in place with a plate washer, lock washer and bolt. 11. Apply the blower air intake screen guard with the blower housing. 12. The bar jack engine over the few times before starting engine. Check assembly with the rubbing parts. Placing auxiliary generator, make electrical connections as shown with the wiregram, particularly with locomotive. Use the voltmeter 0 to 150 volts with the polarity identification marks. Some of the locomotives are equipped with a battery charging voltmeter, which may be used. Connect positive the terminal of the voltmeter upper clip to up to 150 to ampere charge fuse. Regular the terminal of the voltmeter right pole. Battery switch facing the switch. Battery charging switch must be open. Starting the diesel engine useful way. Check the voltage auxiliary generator. The voltage of the generator may be low, 0 to slightly greater because shunt field may be reversed and short-circuited. 2. The brushes may not make good contact. 3. Opening in the shunt field circuit. 4. A reverse field connection usually detected by the generator voltage tending to approach 0 with the generator started up will indicate the wiring is faulty. The voltage of the generator may be built with a reverse polarity because 1. The residual field is wrong in the direction. 2. The caution the battery charging switch with code of the voltage generator because of the reverse polarity would add to the battery voltage may produce a large current with a considerable damage to the charging equipment. 2. In case of the generator gives opposite polarity to take that desire when the building of the voltage separately with the excitement the plastic fields with the correct polarity to reverse the residual magnetism. 3. Excite with the field with external source connect with a positive lead on the shunt field. 5. The terminal over the source connect with the negative lead with the shunt field with the negative terminal over the source. See connection diagram of the field polarity figure 6. Remove the brush from the generator to precaution prevent current from passing through the stationary armature as there is danger in burning out the armature. Alright, maintenance data. The brush pressure is 1 to 1.5 to 2.5 pounds. Brusher and 1 inch of a new brush. Size of the brush split 5/16 by 5/16 by 1 by 2 inches. Longside grade spear is E35 limit resistance at 75 degrees. 0.1692 ohms to 0.187 ohms. Armature 00718 to 0.0794 ohms. Interpole circuit 01131 to 01251. Shunt field circuits are 6.6 to 7.3 ohms. Air gap under main field pole 73,000 of an inch. Under interpole 140,000 of an inch. And that completes the reading of the maintenance instruction for the auxiliary generator model A8102, part number 8140947. Testing.